Alderman. Vice Chair in District 3, Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryan.
President, let's go.
Post 1, Alderwoman Carolyn H. Bell.
Present.
Post 2, Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely. District 1, Alderwoman Bernetta B. Lanier. District 2, Alderman Dietrich Leggett.
Here.
And District 6, Alderman Curtis Pertee.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I call this workshop of the Savannah City Council to order. Today is May the 8th, 2025. The time is 11:36 a.m. We'll ask Alderman Curtis Pertee from the 6th District to lead us in a word of prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you would, go to prayer with me. Gracious God, we thank you for bringing us together today in service to our community. Grant us wisdom, patience, and a spirit of cooperation as we discuss the needs of our city. Help us to listen with open hearts, to speak with respect, and to act with integrity. May unity guide our decisions, and togetherness strengthen our resolve to serve all with fairness and with compassion, whether it be one another or one of our community members. Bless our city, its leaders, its elected officials, its appointed officials, those that work for Team Savannah, and every single resident we represent. In your holy name we pray, amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Today on tap we have a pretty extensive executive session dealing with personnel and litigation. But before that, the city manager has a presentation regarding the special purpose local option sales tax. Many of you know SPLOST. If you don't know SPLOST, you certainly have walked on SPLOST. You've walked above SPLOST. You've touched SPLOST. SPLOST has served you in some way since 1985. Recently, the city manager and I attended a meeting with the chairman of the county commission and the mayors and managers of the other municipalities in Chatham County to determine, A, whether we wanted to move forward, and secondly, what that timeline would be. And I want to thank the city manager publicly for leading in the municipal space. To that end, we have a relatively tight timeline if this is something we want to do. And so the city manager has kind of created, I believe, a starting point for us to get to where we need to be in the time that we need to get there. So, Mr. Manager, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council. Great to be with you. I'm going to speak from the podium this morning so I can follow along on the slides with you. So just to recap, we're talking about special purpose local option sales tax, and this would be for a potential 8 referendum. Right now we are in the back end of SPLOST 7. And the county has put together a schedule that would have SPLOST 8 on the ballot on November 4th of this year. And in front of you is the timeline that the county laid out in a letter to municipal leaders earlier this year. I want to highlight that I'm going to talk about the May 2nd Chatham County meeting that was called for mayors and city managers last Friday, as well as where we are currently, our next deadline, which is municipalities provide approved project list to the county. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the meeting that the chairman called last Friday. Mayor Johnson and I were in attendance for the city of Savannah. It was a wide-ranging discussion revolving around how we would move forward with a potential SPLOST 8 list, and starting with a legal review of SPLOST by one of the county attorneys. But the discussion really keyed in on 3 key decision points that we all need to make before we put SPLOST on the ballot. And you can count it as 4, but that 4th was kind of the formality. It's whether or not we want to do an IGA or move forward without an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement between the county and all the municipalities would allow SPLOST to run for 6 years. A SPLOST without an intergovernmental agreement would only allow SPLOST to run for 5 years. So we really want an intergovernmental agreement. All parties kind of agreed on that approach. So the remaining 3 key decisions that we really need to make in order to put together a potential SPLOST list for voters to approve is, one, what should the total SPLOST 8 projection be? So we have to project how much money in SPLOST we would collect and then be able to allocate that directly to projects. In the meeting, the county had recommended $625 million. Potentially, you may recall that the school board just recently adopted, or the voters just adopted, a $700 million eSPLOST referendum earlier this year. So we're going to be around that range. The discussion in the room was that we would be somewhere between 650 to 700 million. Many of the mayors that were in the room, it seemed to kind of coalesce around $660 million. But that's still a decision that needs to be made, and that's based on financial projections of revenues for this sales tax penny should it be approved. The second decision was how we would structure the IGA. In the current SPLOST, we really have 3 distributions in that IGA. The first distribution was for priority projects. Think about the courthouse, think about jail expansions, think about the arena when it was on the SPLOST. Those are priority 1 projects. Then we moved into a distribution 2, which was, $10 million, for example. CETA was given $10 million for manufacturing sites. The city was given another $10 million to help improve Grayson Stadium, et cetera. And then we've moved into a third distribution, which just is a pro rata share of the revenue based on each jurisdiction's population. And that population distribution is based on the 2020 census. In the room, the discussion, and just a discussion, obviously no decisions were made. Those decisions are going to be up to you, your counterparts in the municipalities, and the county commission, was that the way that we might structure a draft would be 2 distributions. A priority 1 list of projects that we all agreed served the county as a whole and had some parity and equity amongst jurisdictions in those projects. And I'll talk about which projects were kind of discussed in the room in a minute. And then the third question was really, what metric should we use to determine jurisdictions' pro rata share that the allocation would be divided on after those Tier 1 projects were funded. So the working answers to those questions, as I said, somewhere between 650 to 700 million. We're doing a draft would be a 2-tiered IGA with priority projects up front, and then a pro rata distribution for jurisdictions. And then 3, really the only legal data point that we can use is the 10-year census, and the last one is 2020. And we discussed including that we would move to the 2030 census whenever that was produced, though it would be just a few months remaining on that SPLOST. So what were the Tier 1 projects that were potentially discussed in that room? Benton and Highlands Boulevard, both countywide benefit, but within the city of Savannah and Port Wentworth. And this is really related to GDOT's Coastal Empire Traffic Impact Study and the Effingham Parkway South project, which includes Benton and Highlands Boulevard. This is really to build out the full utility of those networks. If you remember, this was also a priority project on the T-SPLOST list that was not approved by voters several years ago. Civic Center redevelopment in Savannah, a regional project, a regional center. President Street Railroad flyover, Savannah County, Tybee Island. A juvenile court expansion for the county, of course, that serves all of us. Tybee Beach renourishment. Of course, Tybee is a place where a lot of the sales tax is produced on the beach. And Quaco Road, which is an important road project in the county, and that's located in Pooler. And then Hutchinson Island Road improvements is the convention center expansion. There's road improvements needed there to support, and of course, those convention center expansions are a big part of the drivers of the sales tax, but these, again, were just potential projects that were discussed. I want to highlight when the county did provide the jurisdictions with simply a breakout of if we kind of structured the IGA the same way we structured the current SPLOST 7 IGA, but based it on $625 million, what would be the number that each jurisdiction would receive? The number for the city of Savannah is just a little over $261 million in a potential SPLOST state. Of course, this is using the current SPLOST allocations. We're negotiating would be new allocations, so this number could change, and of course that bottom number, 625, looks to be moving up as well, at least with the discussion that happened last Friday. But I think for any draft list that the city of Savannah puts together and approves, it needs to be no more than that $261 million, so that we can make sure whenever those back-end numbers are decided or determined, that we're not in a position of cutting projects from our list, but potentially just adding to it would be my recommendation. So to recap, how we have been creating this list with you, that staff generated a list of the city's capital needs, which we provided to council, and these were projects that were already approved by council in some form or fashion, in some phase of planning or even execution, and that they were unmet capital needs, all already recognized and communicated as important by city council. So that was really the criteria for the $1 billion worth of capital needs that we gave you. Of course, we don't have $1 billion to spend in SPLOST, so we're going to have to prioritize and create a list. We wanted to consider alternative funding mechanisms to support those needs. So potentially, if projects were supported by hotel motel tax dollars or by impact fee dollars, we wouldn't necessarily might prioritize those for SPLOST dollars because they have other sources of revenue. Of course, we sought your guidance on how SPLOST dollars should be invested. We sought the community input as well. Today I'm going to pass out just an example and a potential list that adds up to $260 million based on those priorities that you can then work from and we can work from to develop a list that City Council is supportive of and that the residents would support. So want to give a little insight into some of the evaluations and feedback. One, we got, and big thanks to the team led by Taffany Young, 533 community surveys were submitted to us, specifically to SPLOST 8. And this doesn't include the surveys and the feedback the City Council gave, and I know that you reached out to your citizens as well for those. But just to kind of talk about where we are, the community ranks stormwater and drainage as their #1 priority need, followed by community development, traffic and transportation, public safety, parks and recreation, and municipal investments. Council's ranking was very, very similar to that, with the exception of just flip-flopping public safety and community development in terms of those ranks. And so you can kind of see also how the community wanted to spend their dollars within those priorities as compared to how council wanted to spend those dollars. So you see stormwater, 27%. The community said that 27% of all dollars should be spent on stormwater, followed by traffic and transportation at 19%, community development at 17%, public safety at 15%, parks and recs at 14%, and municipal investments at 8%. And really, you just look at where council fell on that. There's really just a difference in the community development and the stormwater and drainage. Council had stormwater and drainage at 14%, and community development at 33%. So just kind of some truing there, but all in all, there was a lot of similarities between the council list survey and the community data survey. So I'm going to hand out just a draft SPLOST list that adds up to $260 million that tried to approach the priorities based on what we heard from you and from the community in terms of investment categories, as well as what we heard directly from you about the projects that you wanted to see on a SPLOST list. I want to really emphasize that this is a draft list. This is not a recommendation. I don't think that it's perfect. No list is going to be perfect when we're thinking about $1 billion of needs and having to drill that down to $260 million potentially. But all of these are in line with the survey results, with your survey results, and you'll see that in red are specific projects that we heard from members of council were important for the SPLOST list. I wanted to make sure that you knew that those were included there, and they're being handed out right now. And so if you can please, in the next week, take a look at that list, and please provide me and Taffney your feedback on that list. We've also provided some stats about how this potential list breaks out in terms of those investment categories, in terms of investments in each automatic district, as well as the number of projects for each, because I know that's very important to council. So with that, Mayor and Council, that's my presentation. Taffney has handed out that draft sheet, and again, it's just a draft. It's not a recommendation. It's an attempt at trying to meet all of the priorities given to us in our feedback session. So with that, I'm done with my presentation. Happy to answer any questions or move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and I want to thank you again. We recognize that SPLOST, any local option sales taxes, always a trajectory. And as we know that it's not only what sells in Savannah, but what sells countywide. It's a countywide penny tax. And I want to thank you for at least giving us a basis by which to start. I would ask, though, that you would give us a specific deadline. We could be challenging sometimes. I want to make sure, I mean, the reality is I don't want to come in 2 weeks and people are turning in, because the fact is,
I need feedback to this list.
well, you need feedback to be able to recalibrate,
That's
and you
right.
can't do that necessarily on the fly. So
I need this in 1 week's time, if that's acceptable to council. So that would be
Next
by
Friday?
May 15th, close of business. Next Thursday,
Next Thursday?
close of business, May 15th.
all right, members of council, so you've heard of that, because I guess obviously once that feedback comes, then he'll start recalibrating based on the feedback and the themes that he receives. So I will follow that up in writing, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, I will, and I'll send all this information to you electronically, as well as the original materials we sent to council.
Thank you. And what would be the preferred format of the feedback?
Writing, please, and email.
Okay. All right. All right. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. City Manager,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you for your presentation. It's very thorough. And I just want to reiterate the lists that we have from the people in the community. The only complaint that I have, because we went in every district, right? We've been talking about this for a while. Our marketing, we have to do a better job. We did everything that we were supposed to do, and so now it was up to the citizens to come and share. I'm just disappointed that only 533, after all this hard work that we did, going through all the districts and giving them an opportunity to tell us what they want. And so we sent up here, all 9 of us try to do the best job that we can based on the information that the citizens gave us. And so when they don't give us what they actually want to do, then they'll come back and stand and jump up and down because they don't feel like they had an opportunity. I just want to say for the record that every district had an opportunity to come in and share their complaints or concerns. And so I want to put that on the record. The other thing on this recommendation, Mr. City Manager, it's been a long time coming, and I hope that the $25 million that you have earmarked for the Skidaway Road improvement, I'm just praying that that is part of the recommendations that stays on this list to do something. It's an arterial road. We know it's governed by a whole bunch of stuff, but the citizens don't understand that that money and the people who live over there, I've been talking about it for a while, and so I would want, for the record, that $25 million to stay a part of the recommendation so we can give Skidaway the love that Victory Drive has. Thank you so much for your presentation and all the hard work that all departments put in this this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alderwoman Bryan, if you would just put that in writing, please.
Yes,
I
sir.
think, yeah, so.
I wanted to talk about the engagement of
Right.
the people that we serve.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have till next Thursday, close of business. Please take the time to do this so that 2 weeks from now, we're not talking about we didn't have the opportunity to weigh in, and that your wishes based on this as a
I have a
starting
question.
point.
I hear you loud and clear, sir. I'm sending mine
Well,
today.
I know. We'll be reflected.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am. Ms. Lanier.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Miller, regarding the I-16 flyover removal, I know that had been on certain people's list. And who is the driving? Is it council, a community group? Who is the driving force behind this, and what is the impetus for the emergency with this? And I'm asking this question because at this point, priorities changed. I was involved. If you look at some of the films from the earlier days, you'll probably see me in there with little baby logs. So I was involved with going to these meetings when this was being discussed, and it really wasn't embraced by the whole community. And I'm asking this because in the same breath that we're saying that we need to remove it, maybe our priorities have changed. Obviously, they have, because just around the corner, just a stone throw away, we're placing something in place that's 3 times as divisive as this. And we can't, on one hand, create further division between the communities, between SCAD and Brickyard, and on the other hand, want to move a little 2-lane to 4-lane just around the corner, spending this type of money in this economy and this environment. So those are the questions I have about that, because at this point, I think those funds could be better utilized.
Well, yes, ma'am, I understand. Priorities can change. The I-16 MLK flyover removal project, and I've only been here 3.5 years, but that was a project that was on the list as a priority. When I arrived here, several community members have supported it. Council has supported it with grant proposals and prior allocations towards the project. We've received a Reconnecting Communities grant from the federal government to work on the planning and project. We've also had some, I believe, congressionally directed funding to support the project. So now would be a good time to decide whether or not it's an important project to move forward with or not. We do have some funding to go forward with. I know that it's a priority for many members of the community. The Reconnecting Communities grant was designed specifically to kind of remove some of these more damaging urban renewal projects that disconnected communities, and that's why you'll see it's not a transportation project, but a community development project. So I think the time is now to either, ratify that this is indeed a community project and a community priority, or not, so that we can, give that money back to the federal government.
Okay, well, maybe it might need to go in Louisville, where it's more divisive around there. Maybe we'll be discussing that next year. However, I do believe whatever the process or procedure is for us to reconsider that, put it before whomever, and let the people who are advocating for this, let them come and make a case for this at this point. And thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman Shabazz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a typo under the district for Millsby Lane and Liberty City Parkway culvert. It should be 5 instead of 2.
Thank you for lifting that.
My apologies.
Thank you.
Yes, it is 5, definitely.
All right, so let's, again, council, this is just a starting point. By Thursday, please have the information in writing to the city manager so he can go ahead and get started. Thank you very much. We will move, I need a motion for going to executive session for purposes of personnel.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
And litigation.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. We recess. We'll be back.